Hi guys, this is Mrs. Olt and welcome to our weather versus climate PowerPoint, our video lecture. This is our first one in our climate change unit, so I'm going to share our screen. Before we begin, I do want to remind you that this is the schedule that the district sent out. Please remember that you should be working about an hour per class every 2 days, so you have about an hour of work for integrated science. Also, I want to make sure you know that there is a lunch being provided at Hayes Middle School, Hayes High School, and Lincoln Elementary. Anyone ages 1 through 18 can stop and get a meal as long as if you go and the other children go, and that's between 11:30 and 12:30, and that started on March 30th and will continue on until the last day of school. Also, I want to touch base about our live sessions because I will be hosting our first live session on Tuesday. We'll be using Zoom. I sent out an email to you that covers about directions for Zoom for you guys. Our sessions are every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. That means we're going to be having a total of 6 sessions. You have to attend 3 of them. Now, guys, this isn't a time for me to teach at you or anything like that. This time, that's why I chose the office hour time, is for you just to connect with me. Allow me to have a few minutes just to talk to you, find out what's going on. What have you been doing? Are you struggling anywhere? Do you have anything I can help you with? So your expectation is to show up to 3 of them, and you only need to stay about 10 to 15 minutes at max. Okay, guys? You can come at the beginning, you can come at the end, you can come in the middle. I will send you out via email a meeting invite Tuesday morning, just so that you can know what you need to click on. Please follow good Zoom etiquette, guys. Make sure you use your real name, follow school dress code. Don't do anything that could possibly get you in trouble. Remember, these are being recorded, and if you do anything, then I just send it up to Mr. Straubs. So be your best self, okay, guys? And it'll be an awesome time. All right, so as we get started, hopefully you have your note sheet. Maybe you're dual screening me. You have me on half your screen with your notes on the other side, or you've printed them off, or you have them as a PDF and you're going to write on them. Remember, these will become an important resource to you later when you do your project at the end. But we're going to focus on climate change. What's the difference between weather versus climate? Also, I want to remind you that you can pause me or rewind me. So anytime I might be going too fast for you, feel free to just stop me or rewind me, okay? All right, so today's objective is to make sure we figure out the difference between weather and climate and what factors affect climate. All right, so weather and climate are not the same thing. All right, so weather is a very short-term day-to-day thing. Like today, it's Sunday. It was a beautiful day outside. It was sunny, it was warm, not too much wind. Climate is an average over a long period of time, like saying the summers in Hayes are hot, or the winters in Alaska are cold and snowy. Okay, so one's a short-term day-to-day, and one is an overall, looking at all the data and saying, okay, well, overall, this is kind of what it is. That's climate. Weather changes of the condition of the atmosphere at a certain place in time. Weather, we can maybe only predict accurately out to about 72 hours. If you've ever looked at a forecast, you know it constantly changes. And so those conditions can change rapidly. We live in Kansas. We can go from having 40 degrees one week to having 80 in the same week, right? Climate is not something that changes so drastically. We usually define it by what are called climate zones. So like the polar zones, so think North and South Pole, icy, cold, snow, that would describe that. It wouldn't be at this time, at this date, it snowed 20 inches. That would be weather. This is an overall picture. Temperate would be kind of like, think the forest in Bambi. You would have all 4 seasons. Arid would be deserts. Tropical would be like the tropical rainforest. That's going to be warm and humid all the time. You have the tundra, which would be like Alaska, so it's cold, a little bit of precipitation, not a ton, probably more snow than rain. And then you have like the Mediterranean, where it's pretty mild, probably 70s all the time. Sun, a little bit of rain, but really nice weather like San Diego or Florida, things like that, Italy. Both of them do have precipitation and temperature in common. When we think about weather, we're usually looking to see, okay, what's the temperature going to be that day? And are we expecting rain or is it going to be dry? Same thing with climate, but climate's an overall big picture. We would say polar is cold and snowy. It wouldn't be a day-to-day thing, or like tropical, hot and wet. Okay, it would be humid versus arid, which might be hot and dry. So they both have a precipitation and temperature, but one's a day-to-day look at just what's snapshot, while in climate, it's an overall picture of what it generally is like compared to weather, which says this day was this temperature and it did this. Weather is a temporary forecast. This means we know that it's going to change from day to day, whereas climate, once again, is steady. It's consistent. This is what we expect overall. And weather usually focuses just on a very local place. Like the weather here could be very different than what it's in Salina. Like earlier this winter, we had that freak storm that dropped a ton of inches of snow out by Sylvan Grove, and here we got nothing. Compared to climate, which it covers a whole huge region, like the entire equator region is our tropical rainforest. All of Canada and Alaska are considered the tundra. So it's going to cover a much larger area because it's more of a basic overall picture look compared to that very specific look in that day that weather has. So that's the big difference between weather and climate. So let's look at that more big picture, more what do we expect to have happen in an area, and look at what things affect it. So climate is going to be affected by a few factors. One of them is the transfer of energy in and out of the Earth's atmosphere. What makes life happen on Earth is truly awesome is that our atmosphere is made up of what are called greenhouse gases. And in the sun, obviously we get light from the sun, but a lot of different things happen to that sunlight. Not all of it even reaches Earth. Some of it, thanks to the gases in our atmosphere, reflects right back out into space. Some of it makes it all the way down to the Earth and it's absorbed in the ground, which is why sand and concrete and things like that get hot during the day. And some of it's actually absorbed by those said gases. Now, it's those gases that absorb and trap it is why there can be life on Earth, because we've created a warm environment where life can survive. There's not this huge drastic change in temperature that we see on planets that don't have an atmosphere. And so life exists because of that. So one of the things that affects climate is how much energy we keep trapped here next to the Earth, thanks to our atmosphere. Others is where on the globe are you? Latitude refers to going up and down on the globe. So we know that at our poles, North and South Pole, this doesn't get as much sunlight. The sun isn't directly hitting it. The angle of the sunlight is very drastic there. And so these tend to be colder regions. They don't collect as much sunlight. But as you work your way south from the North Pole and go north from the South Pole, it starts to get warmer until we reach the equator, which gets direct sunlight. And that's constantly getting direct sunlight. And so it tends to be warm all the time there. So it tends to be tropical. So climates are going to change based on where they are on the globe, what latitude they're at, because of the amount of sunlight and the angle of sunlight that they get. It's not just straight on. Instead, if they're up here, it's at an angle, so they don't get as much direct sunlight. Elevation is important. Obviously, the higher up, the colder you are, compared to lower, close to sea level, which is why the beach, where the water is, tend to be warmer. So elevation can affect climate. If you're at a place where you're at higher elevations, where mountains are, it will tend to be colder compared to if you're at deserts or beaches, it tends to be warmer. Topography also goes along with elevation. Mountains means you're higher up, so it's going to be colder up there. Versus deserts tend to be flat, and a lot of our deserts tend to hug our equator, so they're going to get a lot of sunlight, and so they're going to tend to be much warmer. So what type of land masses are there also affects climate. How close they are to water. Water doesn't like to change. The temperature of water can hold a lot of energy, and heat is a type of energy. So one of the things as we get further into this, we're going to talk about climate change. We're going to talk about the fact that when water, our oceans are actually getting warmer, that is a big deal. That means there's a lot of energy it's absorbing, a lot of heat. But when you are near water, your temperature doesn't tend to change as much. And so these places tend to be more humid or more warmer. So climate near water tends to be warmer and more humid. Whereas the further away you get, so like Kansas, there are no oceans anywhere near us. We tend to be more dry and colder, and we tend to have more drastic changes in our temperature. Hence the 4 seasons and things like that we see. So this unit is going to focus on climate change, the changes that we're seeing in the overall picture of climate in areas. So the Earth's global climate obviously has varied greatly over time. We've seen changes occur throughout Earth history, and it's going to continue to change. Right now, our biggest concern is what we call the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is great for the Earth. It's why there can be life on Earth, because it traps that heat next to the Earth. It keeps it in. But as more and more carbon dioxide gets in our environment, which is one of our greenhouse gases, it can trap more heat and temperatures can increase. And increasing temperatures can cause issues, as we'll see later. So we're going to talk about those factors. We're going to talk about things that are, we're going to talk about the greenhouse effect. We're going to talk about greenhouse gases, and then how humans are impacting that climate change and what that means for the Earth. So we know, so that's what we're going to get into here into the future. All right, so your assignment today is to go on Canvas, and let's see real quick if I can stop sharing. And I want to share a new screen. Okay, so you're going to go into our Canvas page today for your assignment, and you're going to open up our Introduction to Climate Change web quest. You know too, we've done this a couple of times in class. So you're going to open it up, you're going to save it. So give yourself a copy that you can type on. And as you know, use the control-click tip on your links, or copy and paste them. I'm going to strongly recommend that you use Google Chrome, because all these links work there, and you need to answer through the web quest. When you're done, save it, and you're going to submit it here. It is due April 8th at 11 p.m. So make sure you're doing that. Also, don't forget to be doing your own work. I'm going to be checking for that, so make sure you're doing your own work. And don't forget that we have a live session tomorrow. I'm going to send out you the Zoom invite tomorrow morning for you, or Tuesday morning. And just don't stress if you can't handle coming tomorrow. I get it, things are crazy. But just know you got to attend 3 of the 6. And remember, it's just a drop-in thing. Come in, say hi, chat with me for a few minutes, and then you're on your way. I am giving a grade for that, so please be aware of that. All right, guys. You have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.